Good evening from Cairo, everyone. It's great. It is wonderful to celebrate girls, everywhere because girls are the present, the future, and they're everything, in my opinion. We are at Ashoka. Really, we want a world where everyone is a change maker, but we also in WISE. This event is powered by WISE and in collaboration with a lot of our team members and change makers. We believe that every girl also should be empowered to be a change maker. We love the idea, and this is one of the series we're going to start with intergenerational dialogues where our young change makers and our fellows were going to talk with each other. I am so happy that I have many friends among you today. Barb is a good friend of mine. She's the Diamond Leader of Canada. And Marianne is an Ashoka Fellow from the Arab world. And Morgan Dixon is a personal friend. Now, Aisha, you are going to be my friend in the future, but I'm very happy that you're here. I just wanted to welcome all of you, and I wanted you to all, some of you are already in the movement of WISE, Women Initiative for Social Entrepreneurship. It's the first and only, I think, movement in Ashoka that has started from the South and is led by the South. And the idea is we want to redefine success, and we want women and girls to have to show the world that they have impact, real impact in changing the world. So thank you very much, and I leave the stage to my friend Bob.
Thank you so much, Iman. Thank you for joining us. Congratulations on this amazing day and event. Um, my name is Barb Steele, and I'm the Executive Director of Ashoka Canada. And at Ashoka, we made a commitment 2 years ago to supporting our Indigenous people and communities. And we launched this commitment sitting in circle with elders from across the country. And by doing so, we learned about the importance of acknowledging the land whenever we gather together. So today, while we meet on a virtual platform, I would like to begin our panel by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all of the lands that we are calling in from today. And I'd like to take a moment to recognize the importance of the land. And from coast to coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people of Canada, and of the Indigenous people of all the lands all around the world. I wanted to just make a comment about the International Day of the Girl Child. And it was interesting and fun to learn about this in preparation for today. And like all good ideas, this was the brainchild of a gathering of women. And it was the women at the 1995 World Conference on Women in Beijing. And it was decided that such a day was necessary to dedicate to the growth of girls all around the world. So, in this declaration, girls were separated from the umbrella of women and acknowledged around their specific needs. And so, as observing today on October 11th, the International Day of the Girl Child focuses on the rights, safety, and education of girls, with the objective to make girls an active part of progress all around the world. Each year there is a specific theme, and the theme this year has been set as Digital Generation, Our Generation. And this acknowledges the growth of the digital world and how the digital gap can also widen the gender gap. So for us today on our panel, we have 3 purpose points. It's to recognize the importance of activating ourselves around girls and their rights, safety, and education. It's to gain insights from our wonderful women leaders on this call about how to engage, mentor, and support girls. And it's for us to collectively imagine a world where every girl is a change maker, and to start to identify steps that we all can take to make that future a reality. Just a couple of introductions and thanks. I want to thank Ashoka and Dr. Iman and all of the amazing women in the Ashoka organization around the world, with a special warm thanks to the women of the Ashoka Arab world who have started the WISE movement, and this is an incredible change-making call to action. I also want to recognize all the women leaders from the Global South, from the Global North, from Canada, and all of our participants who are dialing in with us today on this virtual platform. Thank you for joining us on this very important day. So I'm going to introduce our panelists now, and we'll launch right into our conversation. So as I introduce these women, I'll ask them to post their website so that you can go and begin learning about them as soon as our call today is finished. So first, I'd like to introduce Asha Paz, who is the CEO of De Meus Dados, which means holding hands in English. And Aisha is an Ashoka young change leader, an amazing young change leader, 18 years old from Brazil. And we'll come back to Aisha momentarily to give us an introduction to ourselves. Next, we have Morgan Dixon, who is the CEO of Girl Trek, which is the largest health movement in America for Black women, with over 1 million members organizing. This incredible organization under her leadership has won the Audacious Prize, a historic investment in the boldest of ideas for social change. And finally, our esteemed colleague, Marianne Montague, who is an Ashoka Fellow and founder of Project SOAR, which is dedicated to the empowerment of underserved teenage girls. So welcome all, and beginning with you, Isha, I'd like you to introduce yourself. Tell us where you're calling in from today. Perhaps one of my colleagues can share a photo that captures your impact. And maybe you can just say hello, introduce yourself, and reflect. Give us one reflection on the International Day of the Girl Child and why it would be important for you.
Hi everyone, my name is Aisha. I'm 18 years old and I'm from Brazil. I work in an initiative called De Mãos Dadas, where I work with other 20 amazing girls to transform the life of girls and young mothers in Ceará. I work with the prevention of teenage pregnancy and also on the promotion of sexual and reproductive health among girls aged 12 to 21. We aim working together to unite and to create a network where girls can feel safe and can feel empowered to take care of their own health and take care of their own destiny, like the owners of it. The of a girl is very important to me this year most because this year I'm working on a menstrual equity project of law, like a bill, and the president actually say no to the project, and now we still live with menstrual poverty in Brazil. And yesterday, to celebrate, most of the channels on TV decided to live stream the works of my organization and the whole Girl Up movement to show the power of girls who are creating laws and trying to transform the Brazil. We know that menstruators are not only girls, but in Brazil, most of them self-identify as girls. And it was a big moment for me to see how we were fighting together and showing how be a girl is a symbol of change and power, and I don't know, just being connected and knowing that your girl is going to support you.
Wonderful, Isha. Thank you so much. That was lovely. Morgan, let's turn to you, and if you can introduce yourself, we'll share a picture from Girl Trek. Give us a little overview and maybe a reflection on the International Day of the Girl Child.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. My name is Morgan Dixon. I am one of the co-founders and one of hundreds, if not now thousands of leaders across America and increasingly across the African diaspora who are health activists and who are concerned with extending the life expectancy of Black women and girls worldwide. And that, to me, feels like an audacious task. It feels incredibly energizing. And seeing this picture of this young woman here, or this young girl here, following her mother and an army of women in front of her, gives me such great hope. So today for me is a chance to pause and realize that of the hundreds of millions of Black women around the world, it is their daughters who will be on the forefronts of change, dealing with things like climate change, food shortage, domestic instability. And we want to make sure that they are prepared and that we leave them a world that is greater now that is greater for them than it is now. So Girl Trek was started in order to inspire women in America, Black women in America, to walk for better health. They were dying faster and at higher rates, Black women in America, than any other group in the country. And we decided to stop asking for permission to save our own lives and to start walking in the direction of our best lives. Well, as we opened the front doors, put on our sneakers, walked out into the sunshine, our daughters walked with us. And they continue to walk with us. And now Girl Trek is 1.5 million members strong. It is intergenerational. We often have 3, 4, and often even 5 generations, or sometimes even 5 generations of women walking together. And it is our hope and our dream that our daughters will live far longer lives than we will. And so we want to set them up for success. And that requires us to take pause today. It requires us to listen to them. It requires us to model the best practices in our own lives so that they mimic us. And so that's what Girl Trek hopes to inspire in women so that they can inspire the same in their daughters.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Morgan. Marianne, we'll come over to you now. If you could introduce your organization, we'll share a photo from your organization and hear a few words from you about Project SOAR and International Day of the Girl Child.
Fantastic. And hello to everyone. I'm coming to you from Rabat, Morocco. Morocco is where we have built the SOAR solution, which is the solution of Project SOAR. So Project SOAR is a teen girl empowerment organization. Our mission is to empower teen girls to be the leaders of today and tomorrow. And the today part is very important for us because we walk with teen girls to help them really be able to step into their leadership starting right now. So we have our own teen girl empowerment curriculum of 25 workshops throughout all across Morocco. We have girl squads. We are open now in Uganda and in Northwest Syria. So our belief is that when you empower a girl, you not only empower her today and her whole community around her, but you are making an investment in 50 to 60 years of a productive future, right? So it's a very good thing for all of us to become girl power investors. And so today, on the Day of the Girl, this is the day that we celebrate every single day at Project SOAR, year round. And girls deserve that. They deserve for every day to be their day. And so I just want to thank you for inviting me to be part of this panel next to, the amazing Aisha and Morgan. I follow your work and thank you for all you do.
Awesome. Thank you, Miriam. That's wonderful. Okay, well, let's start our first round of discussion. And here I'd like to hear from you about really your pathway and how you ended up being the leader that you are today. So what happened in your early life that led you to be a leader in the movement? Any experience or story you would want to share? And or what role did other women play as role models or mentors or supporters in your life? Let's try and have a discussion, and I'll invite any of the three of you who's comfortable to begin. Please.
My mom was a teenage mom. She had me while in high school. I never lived with my father. I actually lived with my grandmother, my mom, and my aunt. And I still do. So I grew up in a house where, by the lack of men, everything was done by women. I never saw women as someone weak, as someone incapable, or someone less than other gender. And the women in my life were responsible for all the good things that happened to me. And they taught me that one day I would be the responsible for the roof where I lived, and I would be responsible for giving protection to them, like they protected me and each other. So this inspired me to build my own roof for all the girls around me, because I wanted them to have the same healthy environment, the same empowering environment where I grew up. So I decided to help people like my mom who needed a friend who would hold her hand while she was pregnant while in high school, while she felt isolated, while she felt that she didn't have power. For them to see that my mom had actually power. She raised a child. There's nothing more beautiful than that. That she's now a owner of her future, that I am a owner of my future, and that I broke cycles that she had to been go through. So this whole leader experience worked as a inspiring experiences, because I inspired my mother, and she was by her mother, and I inspire other people who also inspire me. So I think being a leader is essentially wanting to make a change, and fighting a not supporting network that can help you to go through this process. Because turning into a leader is not, how can I say, easy to be done by yourself. It's very easier to do when you have someone to hold your hand to be with you.
Lovely. Thank you so much. I'd just invite comment or continued discussion or description of your own experiences.
I can go. Thank you for asking. I think that's a hard question. That was a hard question. I was really trying to sit here and think about what my answer is. And it's interesting. On Instagram recently, I posted a picture of myself when I think I was 3 years old. And I was already willful at 3 years old. You could see it in my eyes. I was already focused and willful. And part of my heart is broken when I see that in a 3-year-old girl. But then the other side of me realizes that that level of laser focus on liberation, on freedom, on safety, on care, on love from that early of an age is a unique advantage of leadership. It's a unique advantage. And I don't think it is necessarily gender-based. I think it is largely based on oppression. And I think as children, when you have to push back to oppression, you are forged in that experience. And I think by and large, women and girls around the world suffer disproportionate oppression. And so I think it uniquely qualifies us to be leaders, because I think we are forged, and I think we are strong, and I think we are ready. And so the kind of leaders that inspire me are not leaders of some sort of privilege, or not leaders that decided their pathway and went to the best schools, or had, had this kind of grand vision for their lives. The people and the women who inspired me are the ones who make a way out of no way. They are the ones like Fannie Lou Hamer that says, if I fall, I'll fall 5 foot 2 inches or 5 foot 4 inches, however tall she was, forward. And because she had to. And so, even as an African American, as a child, as a girl child, I expressly and clearly remember having dreams about the Ku Klux Klan when I was growing up in Wichita, Kansas. I remember having terror dreams about the Klan. And I don't know if I saw it in movies. I don't know if I heard stories, very, very likely of one of my grandparents that came from Mississippi or came from Oklahoma. I'm not sure where I even had this direct experience with it. And it isn't too many generations away. My next door neighbor here had a cross burning in her front yard in upstate New York when she was a child. And so I'm saying my pathway to leadership never felt elective, it felt required. And I think that there are many girls. I'm dialing in right now from West Africa. And as I drive down the street and see the girls who are coming to my window asking for money, and I see like the eye of the tiger in their faces, there are many girls who are not electing to be leaders, but they are leading a life that is posited on freedom and liberation because they're fighting for their lives every day. So it is our responsibility to give them help and to give them support. Not to identify or cherry pick who we think is this kind of talented group of girls, but to at population levels, provide girls what they need: education, healthy food, safe environments from sexual violence, so that they can relax and be safe and have joy and have the kind of life that is pleasurable and beautiful, so that they can be, there's a quote by John Adams, one of the founding fathers of America, that said not exactly, but said something like, "We fight wars so that our children can be philosophers and artists." And I feel like that as a woman leader. I don't want our daughters to have to be leaders. I want them to grow up to be women. And as Nikki Giovanni said, one of the most revolutionary things is being a natural woman, doing the things that natural women do when they're feeling natural, like not having to be on the front lines of anything. So that's my hope for, particularly the Black girls on the continent of Africa and across the diaspora, but really every girl on this planet right now, that they can live a life that is so full and so that is just literally overflowing with purpose and with safety and with nourishment, because this world would be a completely different place if we didn't have to be steely as girl children. So that's my hope.
Wonderful. Thank you for your thoughtful response. I can resonate with everything you're saying there. Marianne.
Sure. So I was born in Egypt to a mom from Iran and a dad from New York. And I grew up in a very girl positive environment. So I grew up in an extended family, a traditional extended family, with all of my grandmother, my Iranian grandmother, all of my Iranian cousins. And we were like a big band of girls in our house. And my dad was a very strong feminist. He had dedicated his life to reproductive health. And so what he asked of us is simply that we did our very best. And my mother, when my dad married my mother, she had a high school education, and I saw her put herself through college and then put herself through medical school. And those moments of her being a mother, studying, managing this huge brood of girls all living in this house, it really, it stayed with me. My dad demanded of all of us that we lived lives of service, of secular service. And he was constantly marching on the front lines for women's reproductive health. I remember him very clearly when I was in graduate school, calling me and saying, we're fighting for abortion rights. Can you please come down with your friends and walk with us? So I think it's not only about the women and the girls who have inspired me, but the men who have inspired me too, because I think for girls to succeed, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take more than women. It's going to take men who understand that a world where girls succeed is the best kind of world for everyone.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, let's pick up from there in terms of what needs to happen going forward. So you've talked about the role of men and boys in the movement, about our vision for what a relaxed, safe world for young girls and women would feel like. And we've heard a couple of stories of the girl power home. One of the thoughts I had coming into today was to ask you, where are we today and how big is the gap that we're facing until we achieve, an empowered and safe and secure future for our girls? Maybe you could share from your perspectives on that.
I can start.
Morgan?
Yeah. So your question is, where are we today?
Yeah.
In regards to justice for girls, is that the question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you can look at the UN goals. You can look at sweeping research or CNN on any given day to know that there's not equity or justice for girls around the world by any stretch of the imagination. I think it is overwhelming. Everything from preventive health, which is getting actually better now that we start to control for things like maternal health and childbirth. I think it is getting better slowly but surely. Education is still, the disparity is so high between girls and boys, particularly here on the continent of Africa. It is just so high. And I think we could list a report card of disparities, which I'm not personally interested in doing. They're there, and what I'm actually much more fascinated by is when you think of youth leaders around the world. If you think of Malala, or you think about all of the climate justice leaders, or you think about the indigenous leaders who are youth leaders, a disproportionate amount of those youth leaders are female. And I'm so excited about that generation. I'm so fired up and ready to fall in line behind them. I'm so ready to, I think if there are any funders on this call or listening, pour money into young female leaders, and particularly young female leaders of color, because I think poverty is still such an issue. I think access to resource is still such an issue and such a barrier to change making for girls. I don't think it is a lack of talent, as we see in the fiery young leaders, but I do think access to resource is still an issue. So those are some of my initial thoughts.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. Thanks for reframing the question as well. I really like that. Mariam or Aisha, come on in and let us know your thoughts.
Or, I mean, I think similarly to Morgan, the evidence is out there that there remains a huge chasm between the way that girls are treated and boys are treated around the world. Today, 1 in 4 girls is out of education, right? Compared to 1 in 10 boys who's out of education, right? So there are so many reasons why the enabling environment for girls is simply not favorable. Here in Morocco, Morocco is 146 out of 156 on the gender parity index, right? There's just still so much to do. And I'm not talking about sort of simple quotas, right? I'm talking about how gender is mainstreamed into every area across all topics, because that's what it's going to take. And we all know, right, that COVID-19 has had a terrible impact on girls. Up to 20 million girls are expected to never go back to school because of COVID, right? We all know that gender-based violence has spiked. And when you think about girls, you think about how vulnerable they are. That they are not adults who are able to have all of the agency to move out, that have money in their pocket, so they are just so much more vulnerable. And this has been a very difficult time for them. So I guess one of my concerns is that, similarly to Morgan, let me just say, if there are donors out there, I understand the need for medical support and medical relief because of COVID-19. But all of the issues that were there before are still there, and they're worse. They're even worse for girls. And every single day that girls are not supported, they are more at risk of dropping out of school and of entering into, early or forced marriages and having their whole productive futures decided for them. So this is a urgent situation. This is a crisis, and it requires global mobilization to address it.
Thank you. Really good message for any funders or supporting organizations out here as well, in terms of what needs to be done. Isha, let's hear from you on this.
I think the gap is so big that most people can actually see it, because they are so used to all the sexism, all the prejudice, all the underprivileged life that girls have been living through all these years of humanity, basically, that they can realize that what we are giving to girls is a tiny fraction of what should be given, of what they deserve and they need to be treated as equal, as deserving human beings. I start by the fact, and I also agree a lot with Morgan and Marion in this, because I think that girls suffer a lot on this space because of the lack of support in other areas. Because beyond every economic crisis, beyond every humanitarian crisis in the sense of health and everything with COVID, girls were suffering has been years. So the problems are getting bigger and bigger, and we are talking about girls who are the future. For the most part of the generation that will rule the world are girls. And what we are doing with our future, what we are doing with the productive beings that are going to rule the world, that are going to define what we are going to do, what we are going to do with these people. We can deal like the minority of the world will change the stuff, will keep things healthy if they are not healthy now, if they don't have any perspectives in life, if they are being said that they aren't enough, and they are feeling like they are enough because they don't receive enough. Very important to talk about this, because the gender gap is huge, and I think that is even bigger for girls, because they are girls. They don't have the legal power to speak by themselves sometimes. The most part of the times, actually, girls aged 14 are being married around the world, and they don't have the legal right to say no. If they are under guard of someone else's that is doing their choices, that are deciding things for them, sometimes in the sake of their family, of their personal beings, selling girls around the world to marriage, to underprivileged conditions that will kill their future and their dreams. We need to fight to keep those girls alive inside their bodies because they are killed. Their soul, their girl soul was being killed every day, and together with her aspirations for life.
Thank you. So let's look, and so absolutely hearing that the gap is huge and widening and exacerbated by COVID-19. And so let's think about sharing, what you see as a potential pathway forward. So what gives you optimism? One of you mentioned best practices. What can we take away and do as participants on this call? What's your call to action with this audience that we have in front of us today? Marianne, maybe we could start with you if you're comfortable.
So, I think that the solution for girls is not a simple solution. It requires a complex answer because it's a complex problem. So I'll just speak through the lens of Project SOAR. When we set out to develop the SOAR solution, we knew that it wasn't going to be about taking a girl away for a weekend and kind of putting her through an experience and then setting her off, right? So that this was a solution where girls had to co-create with us in a very respectful, meaningful way. So the SOAR solution takes girls through a whole transformational process. So first we start with self-esteem, right? Because unless you value yourself, and unless you see your value as equal to boys, right, then you will accept that you don't need to be in the driver's seat, that others can make those decisions for you. Then in our voice module, we help girls speak up, right? Because unless they have the courage to speak up for themselves, not adults speaking up for them, they know they should speak up for themselves, and we can't be intervening on behalf of girls. The bodies of teen girls, it's not just the killing of their souls, but it's an inability to manage and understand what's happening to them. So really sharing and normalizing the teen girl experience, the changes in the adolescent body, the ups and downs of mental health, so important. Helping girls understand their rights, the right to be free from violence and sexual harassment, the right to equality, the right to stay in school, right? The right to be free from early and forced marriage is critical, right? And then helping girls get on the path with executive skills where they can choose their own goals and plan for their own futures. So this is a complex solution that I'm suggesting. But I think if you intervene in just one area, right, it's just not enough. The other thing that I think is so important, and one of the things that I really appreciate about Ashoka, is providing each girl with her squad or her network, right? So Project SOAR is built on the squad, which is a network of girls like her, right? So she doesn't feel isolated. She doesn't feel alone. So she has peers to strategize with her. So it's not adults who are coming up with solutions for her. It is girls together working on solutions. I think that this is a long-term investment in a future, and that any simple solutions, right, just can't possibly hope to address all of the complexities that girls are facing today in the world.
Nice. Thank you. I agree completely. Morgan or Aisha?
Hi. I feel that giving an answer for it is part of what Ashoka's been trying to do. It's not about giving all the responsibility to girls. As a girl and as a young leader in Brazil, I've been through a lot of programs, initiatives who told me that I was enough, told me that I could do things, but I was still a girl. I have school, I have hormones, I have friends, I have a social life. I'm growing up. I didn't figure out everything that I want to be, and I don't want to feel like the whole world is on my back. Like because I want to be a leader, because I like to be a leader, I have the responsibility of doing stuff. We can't put on solutions that give girls all the responsibility. Even though we are a lot of girls, we still not empowered. And it's also not about doing things like we are incapable. I know I have hormones, I know I have a social life, I know I have school, but I still capable of doing stuff. I still have a voice. I still have an opinion. I still have an experience that will allow you to see the problem and the possible solutions.
Mm-hmm.
As a girl, I learned that the only way we can actually change things is to work together with girls and people in power. We have to listen to girls, their experience, their possible solutions, and help them to understand what can be done and what is being done. Because sometimes we have actual initiatives who are working. We don't need to create a new one with the same mission, with the same activities. We can join us. We can make it bigger. We can make it a very specific point that we need to go through is to learn that girls are not only there to work for you or to just serve an example that will show to people like, look at this girl, she suffers, please let's help her. It's not about that. We are not that incapable. We need to show people that girls have a voice, that girls have a power, and that girls need help to go through and form their experience as girl leaders. When I a girl and when my initiative find a girl and we see their potential, we see their desire, their thirst for change, we decide that we will help her to develop it without overflowing. And I think that's what we should be doing now. We should be connecting to girls and helping them to find their own way, their role in this fight for men, for girls equity and gender and stuff. Well, welcome to this fight. Everyone that is seeing us, that is that is learning all about this. This is already part of the process of becoming a leader. It's learning about experiences and it's learning about what can be done, what is being done.
Yes, thank you, Aisha. Morgan, wondering if you can step in here.
Sure. So I think we're on a great track. I think having young leaders like Aisha on this call, I think is one of the most powerful things we can do is to listen. And I was just gripped by you. I mean, you have such insight and passion and lived experience to share to this panel. And so I'm grateful for you being here. And I think as a rule of thumb, anyone listening to this should set an absolute benchmark that at whatever tables of power, whatever panels, whatever think tanks, whatever portfolios you lead, that you have girls, not just females, not just women, girls represented. So both youth and gender. And I think that's a really good beginning. I would also just encourage us all individually to do our own work around self-worth. And to, I think it is a real deficit unless we grapple with what is the mental constructs that have been put on us for generations and solve for those as women. we will not be able to raise girls who do not feel inferior. And part of the issue is that when you feel inferior, you work really hard to be equal, to be worthy, to be valuable. And part of the disparity between boys and girls is a disparity of time. Girls are busy trying to make themselves valuable. They are busy work. I mean, even here in my neighborhood, I never see the girls playing. They are working constantly to make themselves valuable to their families. And so part of that is learned behavior. One of my favorite writers of all time, James Baldwin, said, "Children have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they've never failed to imitate them." So let's give the girls someone to imitate who believes in themselves, who understands without a shadow of a doubt that they are equal to anyone on the planet, not just because they are a girl, but because they are divine inside. And so I think there's some deeply personal work to do. Yes, there's lots of macro work to do, which have young people, young girls, women of color, girls of color, at every single table as a rule of thumb. Ashoka, I would challenge you to do that. Every single table as a rule of thumb. And then I think on a more of a micro level, if there's anyone listening to this who has a daughter in her home or a daughter in their home, I strongly encourage, Girl Trek is a walking organization. We've inspired 1 million+ women to walk out of their doors for better health. I encourage you to take a posture of listening by going on a walk with your daughter. On behalf of Girl Trek, go on a walk with your daughter this week and have a posture of listening. So for 80% of the walk, even if you have to track it, you don't say anything, you listen to your daughter. There's so many beautiful studies about when people are walking together on one accord, how much it's easier to talk, it's easier to solve problems. And so listen to your daughter. Let's see, I wrote down some other things. I agree, people were talking about protecting girls, particularly physically and emotionally. I agree with that. Yeah, maybe I said everything. Oh, no. This is the last kind of solution that I think is helpful. I actually think most people, I think there are still pockets of ignorance. But by and large, we have done a great job educating the world on the state of women and the state of girls, by and large. I don't think it's ignorance that is stopping change. I think it is cowardice. I think we actually, like Greta Thunberg said, we actually need to be brave. She stood on the UN floor and asked the lawmakers, the ambassadors, the adults in the room to be braver when it comes to climate change. Because she said it is going to be our generation that has to deal with your lack of courage, not her words, mine. And so I think wherever you are today, we know what justice work looks like. We know what is required so that every person on this planet can have what he or she needs. We know what's required. It just requires us every day to get up and have an appetite for justice. It requires us every day to get up and make the courageous decisions. And so on behalf of the girl inside and all the girls who we are honoring on today, I just ask you to be courageous with social change and social justice and economic justice. And speaking of economic justice, if you have the means, donate to every single organization on this call today. Donate this year, at the end of the year, your tax season, to organizations that empower girls. Because economic justice also matters. And sometimes we just have to write the check. So, some of my thoughts.
So well said, Morgan. Thank you. Miriam or Aisha, any comments in response to what we're talking about here, the macro and the micro issues?
I mean, I have one important thought as the mom of a teen girl myself, is that I think it really starts with each one of us, because I think culturally, women are oppressed, and it sometimes really has an impact on how we speak to others. Every time we comment on someone's weight, on their appearance, right? Like, let us be thinking about how that translates to. And so I think step number one is like, clean up your own act, before you start telling everyone else what to do, right? Clean up your own act and be very conscious and sensitive to what the impact of your words are on others, and especially on teen.
Ask you to weigh in on this conversation before we do a wrap up.
I really agree. The others involved, Morgan and Marion, you just can't stop saying truth about stuff. And I'm really concerned about how we deal with girls in respect of responsibility. I think that we should see girls as responsible, at least a little bit more when we start conversation. It's very common for people to start a conversation with me and think that I'm naive about stuff, about the world. But as Morgan said, girls now they are being responsible for so many things, but so many things that in some point we kind of lost the childish moments, the childish guilty pleasures of just being naive of stuff. We have an opinion of stuff because we suffer from that. We see that happening every day, and we know we are accountable of our responsibility. And I think that we should see girls as someone who has an opinion about something. Even though it looks sometimes like too dreamy, like too something. Sometimes just because we didn't have the experience of being in more, how can I say, academically uh, challenging, because we are still in high school, and sometimes the debates we have in high school is not so in base, is not so explained of how we can change that. We kind of know about this stuff, even though, however, the things go like this, we know about stuff. And I think we should take in account that girls have an opinion, and that listening to them is very important, and treating them as someone important, as someone who has something to talk about the things. We sometimes act like we are parents all the time, and that girls are not capable of having an opinion because they are still girls. But I say we do. I say we do an experience and an opinion about things that are being done about us.
Thank you. We're into our last couple of minutes. So I'm going to ask each of you to share a final thought. And your websites have been posted in the comment section of the live stream. If you have anything specific you'd like to ask for from the audience, now's the time. And maybe we'll start with you, Miriam.
Well, we believe at Project SOAR in something that's called the Project SOAR Nation, which is a virtual world of people who care about girls, right? And so I hope that everyone here, right, is going to get a visa straight to join the Project SOAR Nation and really look around you, right? there are girls everywhere. This is your opportunity, right? To see the world with new eyes. And, thank you.
Morgan.
Thank you. So thank you for having me is the first point. So thank you for this panel. Thank you for all that you do in the world. I think my departing words are, Maya Angelou says that people may forget what you said, they may forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And I guess my call to action to everyone here, including myself, is to audit how you make girls feel. And I think that there's a tremendous amount of bias that we have to unpack from who we address in the room to what our expectations are, this kind of soft violence that girls become so immune to. From parents, from neighbors, from school teachers, from one another. And so I just think I am committing to a sort of mindfulness that I will not continue the damage against girls in the world through my own words. So I invite other people to do that too.
Thank you so much, Morgan. Isha, final.
That I actually am crazy about is my life motto that is from Angela Davis. You have to act as if it's possible to radically transform the world, and you have to do it all the time. My advice for people is that you can address agendas inside your daily actions. Sometimes you just need to stop and listen. Sometimes you just need to comment on a publication. Sometimes you just need to go and say, you've done well, you've done great. Congratulations. It's not a lot. We can address these agendas of gender and of youth and of education and most part of things with daily tiny actions that deserve attention and deserve some time in our crazy routines. So I want to also say to girls that you've been doing great. You've been doing amazing. Congratulations for being you in such a crazy environment. You can do whatever you want, okay? And inside the conditions that the world fits, sometimes we can't fly yet, but maybe in the future, we have hope in the future because the future is you and you're already doing amazing in the situation that we are. So I think that's it. And I want to wrap up saying that really thank you for being a lot of stuff with your words and with your support.
Thank you so much, Isha. And thank you so sincerely to all of our panelists. We're at our wrap-up moment. It's been really an honor. I can't imagine a better place to spend International Day of the Girl than with the three of you. And thank you for the practical tips, the overall thoughts, and the inspiration. And Ashoka is a network behind you. We will take your challenge to keep girls' voices centered very seriously. And we'll look forward to being out there in the world making change alongside you. Thank you all. Goodbye.